Hey, I'm Gretta Ray, and I'm here chatting with Milky about my new album, Positive Spin. In terms of how I feel like my artistry has evolved since my debut album, Begin to Look Around, I feel like with this record, I say things the way they are rather than dressing things up with metaphors with my lyrics. I feel like that was something that I did much more of with my first record, and I feel like with Positive Spin, I'm kind of just saying it as it is, which I really enjoy. It's a kind of new thing that I'm tapping into in my songwriting, and I also feel like I'm a little bit more pop with some of the songs as well, which I really love. In terms of the themes across this new record, I would say that one of them, quite obviously, is positivity. In this album, I am seeking out the silver lining in any given situation. However, I am not ignoring the clouds. I am very much acknowledging grief and heartbreak and sadness, but looking for the light and looking for how I'm going to get to the other side of those heavier emotions, I suppose. I would also say that I address the themes of aging. I do talk about heartbreak, but when I wrote about heartbreak on my previous record, I was very consumed by that emotion, whereas with Positive Spin, I feel like I'm very aware of what's happening and how I'm going to handle it, I suppose. So probably a bit more self-aware in how I move through certain relationships. And gratitude. Gratitude is another massive theme across Positive Spin. I wrote a lot of these songs after 2 years of the global pandemic putting us into countless lockdowns, and I'm from Melbourne, so we had quite a few lockdowns in Melbourne. And I would say that I just felt like I really needed to hold on to what we had just gotten back. I traveled a lot to write this record, so I was just in a very grateful headspace when I was writing the songs. In terms of expanding the sound of this record in comparison to my previous work, I was working with a wonderful friend of mine, a producer called Gab Strum, who has an artist project called Japanese Wallpaper. Gab's production decisions inspired me to move in a slightly different direction with these songs. I think he uses a lot more synths, and there were certain moments where we had songs that were much more upbeat and energetic, and he was willing to be more bold with production decisions that we would make, and it encouraged me to kind of take more risks. And I think also Begin to Look Around for me was very much a record that was kind of bridging genres, I suppose. I was really honestly addressing, like, I'm trying to move into more of a pop space with my music while still keeping that very important singer-songwriter element, and those organic references in the production. There's probably a little less organic stuff happening on Positive Spin, but I think that's probably what makes it a little bit brighter. And for the sake of the themes of this record and just where I'm at as an artist and as a writer, that's kind of exactly how I wanted it to sound and where I want to be right now. I think that all of the places that I wrote Positive Spin influenced the work in a slightly different way. I definitely feel like I get much more sassy when I'm in writing sessions in LA. I think that's just because of how many wonderful pop songs come out of that city, mine and so many other people's. And I think in London I get super sentimental and I get very reflective. London's kind of like a second home for me, so I really get into that grateful headspace that I was talking about earlier. And Melbourne is my home. And when I was in a lot of the lockdowns, I was writing so many songs and going on little walks and thinking about the songs that I had just written and how I could make them better. And so, yeah, that was a really reflective place for me to write in as well. And Nashville, I'm like the ultimate tourist, and I just fall so head over heels in love with music all over again. I always go and visit the Country Music Hall of Fame and look at everything and just think about how deeply I appreciate music. So yeah, they kind of all bring out something different, which I really love because, yeah, this record has a mix of songs from each of those places. My relationship with this album has obviously evolved over time. I started writing it essentially 3 years ago. The oldest song on the record is from the beginning of 2020, so a lot has happened since then. And in terms of how it all came together, I still feel really proud of it, but I think what's interesting now is I feel like I need the messaging behind the record. I think I felt like it was one thing when I was finalizing everything and thinking about how that was going to impact other people, but then as time went on, I realized just how much I needed to continue to remind myself to seek out the silver lining in my own way. So I kind of love how it's been able to be there for me, as well as hopefully it can be there for other people when it comes out. I would play them the title track, Positive Spin. I would play them Dear 17 as well. That's very, very much me in a song. And I'd probably play them Don't Date the Teenager as well, just because I feel like that kind of stands alone from everything else, and I think all of those songs reflect something different but honest about my artist project. My favourite lyric on the album is Museum Self-Guided Tours, Music is Mine and It's Yours, and it is inspired by, it's on the 10th track on the record called You've Already Won, which is one of my favourite songs on the album. I love that lyric so much because I wrote that about being in Nashville and being in the Country Hall of, I'm saying that right, Country Music Hall of Fame Museum. I think that's the full name. But yeah, looking around, and it's so easy to get in our heads about where we kind of stand in music when we are in music as a job. To be able to go and witness the incredible work and efforts of other musicians that have come before you and paved the way for you, I think it's very grounding. And I just remember feeling really grateful that day that I was in the museum, and I hadn't been there in years because of lockdown, and just, yeah, remembering what it was all about, what I was doing, and what my purpose is, I think, in this world, to make music and to write music and to share it with other people. So yeah, that's why that lyric's really important to me, and I think, yeah, one of my favorites on the album. I'm going on tour in September, and something that I am incredibly excited about for the Big Pop Show is just the fact that I've given it a silly, funny name, and I think that it's going to mean that the energy of those rooms is going to feel really light, just like the record, which I love. I'm so excited to, I haven't actually learned any of these new songs yet, so that's something I need to do. And yeah, I'm excited to learn them. I'm excited to run around the stage and sing some of my favorite deep cut tracks from the record. I'm just really excited to see the fans and to see them fall in love with these new songs, and see what those songs become for them in terms of how they grow attached to them and which ones they choose as their favorites. And yeah, that's really important to me. So I'm really looking forward to going back on tour. Muna and Carol Addis.
Taylor Swift, Missy Higgins, Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, Laura Marley.
Yeah, slay. I still love all of those artists so, so much. Oh, see, now that it's in my head, because I just saw that answer, I would love to collaborate with Missy Higgins.
Julia Michaels is my #1 currently. Julia Michaels, or writing a song for or with Lennon Stella, because I love her music.
Yeah, slay. God, it's so specific to that era. I'm like, yeah, that was my whole universe then. So true. For this particular album, it Saves the World by Muna, for sure. And I think in terms of ever, I feel like it's probably Fearless by Taylor.
Once I Was an Eagle by Laura Marley.
Huge. I know they've already done a TV show of this, but if they made a film adaptation of Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, I would love to make the soundtrack for that, if they did that.
I think I would just love to create a soundtrack for something that had the same energy as a film like Little Women, you know?
Of what?
That would be so sick. Oh my gosh, it would be...
Wow.
You could just romanticize everything in the song.
Old
and get
of me.
so experimental and creative with production. It would be really cool.
Nah, leave that to Carol Addis. She would do a much better job at that than me. Oh, Miley.
Of Miley Cyrus. Have you seen Miley Cyrus?
Yeah. Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz.
Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz.
I love that's the same. Best concert I've ever been to. Oh, man. Oh, I've been to so many good ones. I think the one that I was the most like blown away by was the Reputation Stadium tour, just because of the fact that like I'd never seen her move like that before, and I was like, this is the tour that feels the most like I'm at some extremely incredible circus. Like there's always someone kind of doing a backflip. The dancers were insane. There was like flames. It was just like a lot, and it was really impressive. So yeah, probably that one.
Oh my god! Best concert you've been to? I have to say Reputation tour, stadium tour, just because.
Oh my god, thank god I got tickets to the Eras tour, because you got them? Great. Yeah. Spice Girl, obviously.
Obviously Spice Girl.
It's gonna be something like, I know what I reckon I would have said something like Baby G or Mama G, because like occasionally I'll get called either of those things by my friends. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but I don't know. It's really simple when you have a name that starts with G. Lots of nicknames come out of that. So what did I say?
I think my Spice Girl name, can I be like Baby G? Spice? Just because Baby G's been like one of my nicknames.
Girl, put some concealer on. Like, for real. What were you doing? That's an interview. Oh, great question. The most memorable show I've ever performed. Well, it's definitely going to be different now because I went on tour with Gang of You this last year, and I would have to say it was probably, out of all of the shows that we played, I have to say it was the Melbourne shows at Rod Laver Arena, just because Dave made a really big deal about the fact that it was my hometown, and just, you know, yeah, he's funny and like my big brother, and pushed me to the front of the stage at any chance that he got to be like, this is your girl. Give it up. So that was really fun, and just that venue is where I saw my first concert, Alicia Keys. So yeah, it's definitely the Gang of You's Melbourne shows.
One of my most memorable shows I've ever performed was at St Kilda Festival in 2017.
That was a very memorable show.
That I had a crowd that was so large that I couldn't quite see the end of it, and I remember that just like really blowing my mind when I realised that that was the case. So that one.
No. Look, are we being serious? Like, we all know the answer is Taylor. She's, you know what is crazy is like looking back at these old answers in my old interview is just the fact that like she wasn't even that, like, in comparison to what she is now. She would like to think that there was a time where she was like less famous than like absolute global superstar. It is the most surreal thing to have watched, especially as like an OG Swiftie. But it's so incredible as well. Like, I met some girls, side note, last night at this fan event that I did, and one of them was 12, so like the age that I would have been when I started going to see Taylor Swift concerts. And I was like, did you get tickets, honey? And she was like, I'm hoping on the resale. Like, I had all of these tabs open, I didn't get them. And I was like, that is crazy, because like I got tickets when I was 12, and you would never think that like, A, it would be the same artist, but B, it would be like a billion times harder. It's just, it's crazy. And like, I mean, it's credit to her incredible talent and hard work. So slay.
I have to say the Beatles. Do I need to explain why?
Yeah, no, that's also a good point.
Day and age, then, like, obviously
the
it's
Beatles
Taylor.
And Taylor
It's
Swift.
Obvious.
I did say Taylor.
Again,
yeah.
I don't need to say why.
Predictable. I hope that my future self, I hope you're playing your instruments more. I hope that you are worrying less about social media numbers. Can't believe I'm saying that, but I really hope that that is the case. And I hope that you're back into the thick of writing sessions and writing songs and falling back into that part of the new cycle. And I hope that you're really, really proud of the hard work that you did for this album campaign. Yeah.
You released the album. That's not advice. No, I would probably say to myself, whatever you do, because I'm hoping that in a year's time, we would like not be in lockdowns anymore. And I would probably say, whatever you do, don't take any of the things that are happening now for granted, because a year ago you were in lockdown all the time while you were trying to release your album. So any opportunity that you were getting to go out and promote it in person to people, absolutely do it, take it. And yeah, that's what I would say.
That's nice. I definitely can say I think I did do that, because around the time I recorded that interview was a year before I was on tour with Gang of Youths. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, that's so special. We followed through, but yeah, wow. How special. Yeah. It's crazy, like, thinking about the heaviness of the lockdowns and then looking at that interview and seeing a very energized version of myself. Like, we really were just out here, like, faking it till we made it. Yeah. Oh, the things that I am thinking while I am performing is stay in tune. Look how many beautiful, lovely, darling people there are. And oh my God, that fan is screaming the lyrics so loud. I think they're going to lose their voice. And one other thing is, please, for the love of God, do not have another wardrobe malfunction. Slay. I'd like to see Gang of Youths cover one of my songs because I've covered one of theirs. So I think that would be fun.